The resilience machine. Welcome to one of the most important sections in the whole course, using the resilience machine. This is a technique to keep you at your best, to get you off the canvas when you get knocked down, and to give you the armour you need to get out there and do it every day. Every time you feel down because you have actually failed or you just feel like you have, you need to run your brain through the resilience machine. This is a fascinating invention based on Isaac Newton's principles. He said, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And he was onto something there, otherwise a game of pool would be really boring. But similarly, in the world of sales, there is a maxim. To every judgment there is an equal and opposite opinion. Which means just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true. Very often the person saying negative things about you is actually, well, you. When you're tired or have a difficult problem to solve, it's often easy to get down on yourself. So, roll out the resilience machine. Find out what the thought is in your head that's causing the noise, and then you need to rebalance it. That is, find another thought that takes away the power of the first one. So, if you're frustrated, then that's okay. But if it's making you unhappy, then a thought that takes the power away is that frustration is normal. Even fun. It adds to the sweetness of the prize at the end. Try flipping over the judgment associated with the thought. Say to yourself, well, what if this is actually a good thing? The idea here is not just to toy with your head, it's to get you back into a place where you can take action to change the situation. By rebalancing the thought, you now have both feet back on the ground, your new state, as you can see in the diagram. This lets you come up with concrete things to do to make the world better. The resilience machine takes bad thoughts and turns them into good actions. And whilst thoughts can be entertaining, it's actions that get things done, actions that change the world. The first thought is often to blame yourself or take the weight of all the negative feelings onto yourself. So the first thing the resilience machine does is to balance things out again. So another powerful thought to do this is, well, what if this actually isn't all my fault? Or if I was watching this as a moviegoer, what would I actually be seeing without seeing everything from the point of view of one character, that's me? If I was cheering for the hero or the heroine, what would I actually be screaming at the screen right now? You would see the hero or heroine struggling with a problem. But it wouldn't just be the whole story. It would just be one obstacle for them to overcome. You would be able to see that the situation arises from multiple reasons, not just one person's actions or mistakes. So say, out loud, what someone would say who was being totally reasonable and utterly fair to everybody. Get yourself back onto an even keel, and then feel the weight of the world fall off you. Describe your new state, a cold, impartial description of the way things actually are. Imagine yourself for a minute being like Mr. Spock from Star Trek or a robot, just stating the basic facts. Now, think about what you can do based on those facts. Come up with a list of things you can do right now with what you have available. Then don't do anything. Just sit with the solutions and let them filter through your brain for a while. As the emotions die away, it will leave you thinking clearly again, and then it's time to act. So leave it as long as you can, but no longer. Then start taking the actions. It's important to leave a gap, because every now and again I've found it necessary to run myself through the resilience machine twice. Some of my negative feelings have run very high. And I found this to be true for several of my colleagues too. There is definitely a relationship between feelings and the size of the deal or the proximity of a deadline or a year end. So, let's look at some examples. The resilience machine. 4 examples, 4 scenarios that you're bound to go through at some point during your year. Number 1. I feel powerless. Now, sometimes you just feel like you're missing every shot, and you wonder if you can ever get anything to go the way you need it to go. Bear in mind the fact, cliché though it is by now, that Magic Johnson's ratio of scores to the shots taken was only ever 30%. So he failed twice as often as he succeeded, and his power was never in doubt, then or now. He was Magic Johnson when he went to drop off his kids at school, as well as when he was on the court. And that's because talent, hard work and determination don't just disappear. So, rebalance it with the fact that your skills do not depend on anything or anyone except your own efforts and a bit of luck. This puts you into a place where you are now curious about what exactly is stopping you from getting through and what you can do to change that. Concrete actions immediately pop up. Number 1, ask questions to understand the situation. Number 2, take a leadership position in determining what's going on so you can make a decision whether this is something you can develop or whether you need to walk away for now. And number 3, you need to be clear with the other people that you have some needs here that are just not being addressed properly. Example 2. I feel frustrated. Feel free to go into a field and shout at the clouds when you're frustrated. Write an email to the person who is annoying you and then delete it immediately. The only thing that makes frustration worse is openly expressing it, as it'll just bring a defensive response from the other person, and then you have to deal with that before you ever get back to the actual reason behind the frustration in the first place. The answer is patience, or you end up just being an extra in a Laurel and Hardy movie. So, rebalance with the recognition that until somebody signs on the dotted line, you are always going to feel a little frustrated. It's part of the job. Your customer needs education, reassurance, a story to tell their colleagues, clear goals to focus on, maybe all of these, and it's your job to find out and provide them. Your new state is to view them as a job to be done, not an enemy. Concrete actions that will appear now separate the person from the story you're telling yourself about them. They don't know what you're thinking or why. Focus on finding out what's driving their behaviour. It'll just be ignorance or frustration of their own, or perhaps some agenda that you don't even know about at the moment. There is a reason, and it's not you, so find it and solve it. Next, the perennial favourite, self-doubt. Everyone suffers from this apart from psychopaths, apparently, so be grateful that you do. Now this is balanced by the thought that, as the song famously said, if you get it wrong, you'll get it right next time. Every sale is different, and there will always be a learning curve associated with a customer, their business, their marketplace, their internal culture and politics. You cannot know everything when you turn up for your first meeting, or even your last. You can do your research, but curiosity is always a better tool than making assumptions. Once you accept that you are a lifelong learner, you also accept that some lessons hurt, and they are usually the really valuable ones. Now, some people will overreact to any mistake you make, and that's down to them. Never doubt the power of being solid in your intention. Your intention is to deliver real value to the customer. As long as that's central to your sales approach, you will never go far wrong. Now, the actions coming from self-doubt are a determination to embrace the life lessons that are thrown at you through the situation, and not to apologise for having a growth mindset. You'll remember that a growth mindset is when you think of yourself as a work in progress, not a perfect being. And this allows for you to put your confidence in your ability to learn rather than your store of existing knowledge, which is always growing anyway. And the final example is, I'm feeling distrust. When you first get on a bicycle, you wobble for a few yards, even if you're a professional Tour de France rider. You do not get any stability until the bike is moving along because, well, that's how bikes work. So you will always need to build up trust in a sale, and at the beginning it will always feel a little bit awkward. Now, the thing that grows with time in a sale is not just familiarity, though that's important, but more important is customer knowledge. You need to build the relationship personally and professionally at every meeting, every call. If you're feeling some distrust, then it's most likely that you're missing part of the puzzle and need to increase your customer knowledge. Don't doubt your feelings here, because there is no real downside to deepening a customer relationship, but there is a massive downside to trying to close a deal with insufficient knowledge of the customer or their various needs. Take actions based on this feeling. Go back and rebuild your relationship with the customer representatives and clarify the picture you have of their needs. We'll be covering part of this later on, and I'll be giving you some unique tools that you can use to deepen your relationship and understand where the relationship is. But for now, just remember not to ignore your gut when you sense distrust. Take it as a sign you need to revisit some basics with the customer. So there you have it, the resilience machine. Start using it and it will become a habit, your standard way of dealing with negativity. It will become your first aid station, your suit of armour, and your secret to consistently high performance.